where we can then at the same time see what is the current knowledge. So you are not bound just to use one. Can you see you can use both three, all three of them already you can use. First off, start by using the lecturer, where you start by giving them some basic information. Then you can ask them, then you can ask your class, please read the following section on your own. Then you can do, after the reading has taken place, you can ask them, okay, now we're going to do a demonstration on what you have read and what I have presented to you. So this is how you can work with your training methodologies so they work hand in hand together. But again, you're not just bound to one. You can use various training methods in your facilitation. The last one is discussions. Now, discussions, this is a common training vehicle which is useful for presentation of ideas and plans, and particularly when issues have to be clarified and expand and view of groups have to be gained. The facilitator using discussion method requires the skills in planning, careful presentation, facilitation skills, and summarizing results and ensuring that suitable action is taken. Discussion is it's also a very good method to use, but be careful. This is now where you carefully need to plan for if you're going to implement discussion method in your facilitation. When having a discussion with a large group, it can easily move over into arguments. And then you sit with a class that's arguing with each other. So carefully plan when using discussions. Discussions is not a bad training methodology. It allows all participants to take part. Remember now we have an open discussion. Now you can see where are we losing some of the participants? What parts of the course what part of the course are they not understanding? So careful planning is required to implement the discussion. So let me give you an idea. We've gone through all four training methods now. So let's start off. You can start off your class with a lecturer. So first off, you start by reading a certain section, introduction, and reading a certain section to them. Then you ask them, now I want you guys to read through module 2 for me on your own. I'll allow 30 minutes for that reading to take place. After the reading has taken place, now you can inform your class, guys, let's have a demonstration of what module 2 you have just read. Let me demonstrate to you so there's a clear understanding. After the demonstration has taken place, now you can implement discussion and say, okay, now I want us to have an open discussion on this topic that we've just demonstrated. How do you guys understand it? How do you feel? And then you can start asking individuals in the class for their opinion or for their point of view. How do they see the certain section? Can you see how you can implement them together? You can even start off your facilitation with a discussion just to get a clear point of view of what are the current understanding in your class. You can even then move to a demonstration and say, okay, now that we had this discussion, I see and I hear there are some of you that doesn't understand the following points. Let me demonstrate. Let's go and do a demonstration so I can demonstrate to you how to perform these tasks or how they should be implemented. And then you can do a reading. So it's vice versa. Or you can just use discussions and demonstration. It's up to you, but really. It depends on the course that you're going to facilitate. Does the course that you are going to facilitate, does it allow you to implement discussions? Does it allow you to implement demonstrations? For instance, if you're doing any business course or any accounting courses, there's no room in the facilitation part for a demonstration. What are you going to demonstrate to them? There's more room for a discussion, and there's more room for a reading part when conducting, let's say, a business course. If we move to, for instance, like a first aid course, there would be, your training methodology would be very much adjusted and would go more to discussion and demonstration, because there are physical parts of the course that needs to be demonstrated to learners. So again, first of all, work according to the sequence. Identify our learners, identify the course that we're going to facilitate, have a look at our course content, then start having a look at what visual aids we're going to use or what is necessary. Find a suitable training venue. Implement your seating arrangements according to your facilitation that you're going to conduct. Identify your training methodology. There's 7 steps that needs to happen. So following those 7 steps, you can never go wrong. All right. So those were the examples for the training methodology. Roles and skills of a trainer. Roles and skills of a trainer. It is interactive that the learner is very well trained as a behavior modeling trainer. At least 5 days of formal training in behavior modeling skills is required, followed by on-the-job training. The trainer must be skilled and sensitive, otherwise the program will fail. Behavior modeling is a trainer-dependent technique. So what they're basically doing, what they're busy actually trying to explain to you is, if you're new and you've never done a presentation or you've never done a class, perhaps you need to work with a facilitator that has years of experience and just conducts work, just sit in his class for 2 or 3 days just to get that formal training. Just see how he works with his group, how he presents certain sections. It's not a requirement, but it just helps you as a facilitator as well. Reinforcement on the job. Reinforcement on the job makes sure that the trainees are rewarded for using new behaviors on the job. Ensure that trainees, managers acts as coaches, reinforcers, and a positive model for the trainee. Other rewards can include more responsibility, more authority, and freedom, promotion, and self-satisfaction. Now, this might sound confusing. This is just when you are appointed into an organization as a full-time facilitator. Now, what you want to do is, after your facilitation has taken place, you want your managers, supervisors, everyone must be trained. It's not just certain people. So once you're busy with let's say you are busy conducting another class and your participants are out on site and they're busy working, the managers and the supervisor should be there to coach them, to enforce them, what they have learned. So if you are in an organization and you've been full-time appointed, your main focus should then be first train your managers and your supervisors. Because remember, you can't just always just conduct training. There's certain training that only supervisors and managers can act and can enforce on the job. So this is where they refer to this section, where the section is referred to. When they talk about other rewards that can include more responsibility, if the manager or the supervisor feel that this participant that already has attended classes and he is performing well, more responsibility can be granted to this participant. He can even be recommended for a promotion then. So this is where they dive into a physical organizations on the job training now. Refresher courses. Run refresher courses at regular intervals and post-training meetings to discuss trainee successes and failures on the job. Use what talents you possess. The woods would be very silent if no bird sang there except those that sang the best. Again, this is now based on where you physically full-time employed as a facilitator at a company. Now, certain courses do require refreshment. For instance, and this is just purely examples that I'm giving, on your minds, all the operators that work with heavy-duty machinery, they need to undergo yearly refreshments. For one simple reason, they need to be at all times kept on top of and reminded of their the training that they attended, due to the fact that they are working with heavy-duty machineries. So the DMR has issued that they must do yearly refreshment courses. Even first aid is also done every second year. There needs to be a refreshment course. So there's a lot of courses that are bound to be conducted on a yearly basis. But when you are employed full-time at an organization, you can see through meetings that you conduct with the supervisors or the managers or even the trainees. When we refer to the trainees, this is now the participants. If you see they are failing at their job, then what's the first thing we need to do? We need to bring them back into training. It can be that they require a certain set of skills, or perhaps they have forgotten what they have been trained on. So this is where we bring in refresher courses to help the trainees in succeeding in their current job description. Managing groups, facilitation principles. This is now if you have a large groups, do not make assumptions. Shift ownership of the process to the participants. Establish shared expectations. Develop a strong, flexible facilitation plan. Perform continuous real-time assessments. Intervene on process, not content. So when managing a group, first thing you do is never make consumptions. You work on the facts and you work on what you can see. If we refer to shift the ownership of the process to the participants, by now we all know that the entire facilitation revolves around the participants. So everything revolves around our participants.